Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox from Doctor's Nutrition, located on Callan Lorraine Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. We do this every Monday morning. It is a live show. It is a live call-in show in which we pick a topic, invite you to call in and ask questions regarding that topic or anything that you have regarding your health, because that's what the show is all about, is living a healthier lifestyle. Our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. If you have a question, you can call it in, pass it along to our producer, and they will pass it along to us. Well, the first Monday of every month, which this is Monday, March.
Yes.
Yeah, March 4th. Wow, well,
Yep.
March already. But anyway, the first Monday of every month, we do what's called Open Line Monday, which we talk about everything, just whatever, just, you know.
Or anything.
Anything or everything.
everything.
So whatever you have questions about, we'll talk about it. We have some that have been emailed in that I have a list of that we'll talk about as well. But that's the whole thing. So we're going to start out by one of the things that y'all do is the light treatment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and you've got a new study on the flickering light.
Yes.
Well, we do the red light therapy, and we've talked about that a lot on the show in the past. And we've seen it work on a lot of people with various problems, from Parkinson's, dementias, and so on and so forth. MIT just did a study, and that's in the red light bed uses some very specific frequencies in the infrared or red light range. And we can vary the frequency of how often that light blinks, like for instance, 1,000 times a second, or 10 times a second, or 40 times a second. And MIT just did a study at 40 times per second. So in other words, the light's blinking 40 times per second. And you can actually see it at that range.
That's fast.
That's pretty fast, but
It's
you can
fast,
actually
but
detect it.
you do see the flickering.
You can actually see
do.
it. And what they did is they took people, and they took various people. They took people that didn't have really problems, and then they took people who had, the signs of dementias and so on, and Alzheimer's. And they did a study where they took these people, they put them in a room or in a light environment where they could, and they didn't use red light, they just used light.
Flickering light.
But they flickered it at like 40
hertz.
times per second, 40 hertz. And they found that 40 hertz does something kind of unique to our brain. It makes it clean house, okay? And that's kind of a neat thing about it.
Well, make me an appointment now.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, it seems like we have this system in our brain called the lymphatic system. It's related to the lymphatic system, and the rest of the body, don't go there. Just know it's a cleanup system in the brain. And what that 40 hertz per second did was actually triggered that system to start cleaning up the residue in the brain. That's why sleep is so important, because at night when you go down to sleep and you go into that deep REM sleep, you're probably simulating that 40 hertz per second, probably. And they don't know that yet, but anyhow, it's probably something that'll come out. Needless to say, that cleaned up the brain. It got a lot of the proteins that kind of wind up being that tau protein that you hear a lot about with Alzheimer's. It helped clean that out of the brain. Also stopped brain shrinkage. I thought that was kind of interesting. So it was really kind of an interesting study. And
and it actually followed what a lot of the red light studies have shown.
Exactly.
We're using red light, and we've had our red light therapy for probably 4 years.
Yeah.
And the research on it is unbelievable. There's thousands of studies that have come out on red light for various problems. But for the dementias, they recommend 40 hertz because they found that when you flicker the red light at 40 hertz, it tends to work better for dementias and neurological problems.
Right.
So the good thing is it was just another validation of the red light at 40 hertz, because you get the benefits of the red light, which help the mitochondria.
Yeah.
So that actually helps mitochondrial problems, and then they show that the flickering at 40 hertz helps clean out the brain. So the two together, I would think, would be even better.
Yeah.
And people always ask me on red light therapy, how often do you have to do it? Well, most of the studies that have been done on red light were done at 3 times a week for 8 weeks. And then you have to do a maintenance. And so I do tell people that if you do it, you have to do a maintenance to kind of maintain the benefits that you get from it. And so that, I just wanted to let everybody know. So if you are interested, it is not something that you do once.
No.
And even on the flickering light, they did it like for a month, and that's what they were watching. And so nothing does it in one treatment.
No.
And so, but if you are interested, we do the red light therapy, and we actually do sell packages for various amounts.
And kind of an interesting side in this thing. They took one group of people, and I call them cohorts in research. One cohort didn't have any problems. And they found in those people doing this therapy actually increased their memory. And what they found was doing like EEGs and things like that, they found it changed their brain function. Even in normal people that didn't have any particular signs of problems or anything.
Yeah. And when it comes to dementia, I always tell people it's better to prevent, and if you know everybody in your family has it and you know you have some of the genes for it or whatever, do it before you have a problem. That's one reason we got it, is I'm doing it now since I have dementia in my family. So, but you want to do it ahead of time. So it's always better to do it before there's a problem, but if you have a problem, they were even showing that it was beneficial with the flickering light. So I just thought that was really interesting that the MIT study is kind of backing up what they say about the red light at 40 hertz as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It is.
Really.
Yeah.
And it's something so, you just don't think, what can that do? But it does change things. We are an electrical body. And so changing, it does make a difference. And there's no doubt another thing that's been shown just with the red light, at the lower amounts, it helps with they call mental stress and depression. So, and there's no doubt you see a difference in anxiety almost instantly after the red light session when it flickers, when you see the light flickering. Now, anything over 100, you don't see it. But anything under 100, you do. Now, the only people that cannot do that setting is if you have seizures, because flickering lights can increase seizure activity, so you don't want that.
Although the MIT study did include some people who had seizure activity.
Yeah.
And they found that they did okay with it.
Yeah, but I don't want to trigger somebody's seizures.
We don't want to trigger it. Right.
No.
I don't want to trigger that. So, but you still can do red light therapy if you have seizures, but you just have to be over 100 hertz.
Right.
Yeah, so you can still do it. You just got to be a certain setting. But for the 40, you do see a little flickering, and
So
it's different.
Do you lay there with your eyes open to do it?
I close my eyes, but you do see the flickering through the light, and you do want to. There are glasses we have, but that blocks some of the flickering. So to me, part of the benefit is the flickering of the light. Yep.
All right, viewer said, what can cause a zigzag colorful aura in eyesight?
It's usually called a
floater?
No.
It's an ocular migraine.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's not like a headache. I mean, people think, oh, I don't have a headache. Yeah, and they call that, basically, that's kind of how you describe it.
We do recommend when you're having things like that, definitely you need to go to the eye doctor and have it checked out to make sure there's nothing else underlying.
Right.
To make sure there's not something causing the ocular migraines.
Yeah, you could have like a detached retina or something like that.
Well, it's more in the optic nerve thing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yep. All right, 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. It's Open Line Monday, so any questions you got about your health, feel free to give us a call. 8 minutes after 9 o'clock, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. And welcome back to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. Our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. It is an open line Monday, so any questions that you might have about your health, call in and ask about it. You had something else?
Yeah, I think we've mentioned it. I don't know that we haven't really gotten into the
we've mentioned stuff a lot, but it's just been hitting the internet everywhere you turn. It's been showing up last week.
Microplastics.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
In everything.
It's in everything. It's in the water, it's in the soil, it's in the air. Seriously.
It's in your food.
It's in your food, and what winds up in your food, and of course, if you eat an animal that's eaten it during its lifetime, okay, you're getting it that way. So it's in all the food. It's really a mess, and we're just beginning to kind of realize that, ooh, this might not be a good thing after all these years, right? So, okay, we know now it's not a good thing, and the people in China, bless their little hearts, they did some real, because they got a real problem over there, and they found that microplastics in water is a real problem because basically most people drink bottled water, and that's one way of being self-contaminating. And what they did was they took bottled water and actually boiled it and got rid of about 90%, excuse me, of the actual microplastics. What it does, boiling water creates something called calcium carbonate. And the more calcium you got in your water, the harder your water, the more you produce. And what it does is that calcium carbonate kind of wraps up that microplastic. Then you filter it through, like they did it through a coffee filter. So, I mean, they didn't use anything real elaborate, They just, just wanted to see, okay, can this be done? And sure enough, it got rid of like 90% of those particular microplastics. And of course, they talked about other things that we need to do. One is, stay away from water bottles that are plastic, that kind of thing, which is, they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere. So there's a lot of things we can do. I know when we bring
that bottle of water up on my desk, I shouldn't be
probably shouldn't. Yeah. Well, like when we bring water here for the station, because we're not drinking whiskey or coffee. Okay.
Yeah, I've complained about that.
Yeah, he's complained about it. But, it's one of those things.
Kidding.
Well, we bring it. I use a stainless steel container, and we have at home we have a big filtering system. It's a reverse osmosis 5-stage thing, Bobby.
Yep.
And
then it goes to the refrigerator.
And then it goes through a refrigerator and another filter there. So then we get good clean ice and we get good clean water, and we put it in a stainless steel container, which hopefully doesn't have any microplastics.
And it tastes really good.
And it does taste good.
It
really does. So, okay.
So clean water does make a difference, and one of the things that the study has shown that it really affects is your microbiome.
Yeah.
So it really affects your bacteria in your body, your good bacteria that
How
we
many
always
times have
talk
we
about
talked
how
about that?
beneficial it is.
Yeah.
And so it really does start affecting that, which starts affecting everything.
Yeah.
So just something in plastics, and they even talked about in the study, I mean, of course, heating in plastics, we have told people over and over and over, do not heat in plastic. Those things that say, oh, you pop it in the microwave and you heat it up, that's horrible. Do not pop things in the microwave in plastic.
It's beyond horrible.
It is.
It's amazing. I think the plastic revolution that we've been through since for the past, 60, 70 years, something like that. We probably need to figure out a way to get out of that. Of course, there's too much money involved, and you know how money in politics works. It's never going to happen. So we just have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Just do what you can. I mean,
Yes.
you can't get away from it completely.
No.
But do what you can to not get extra plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
And definitely heating and storing in plastic is not, I mean, especially when you put hot food in plastic, they definitely get microplastics in the food.
I always let my food
And
cool
so
down
use
after
glass.
I have leftovers.
Well, still, you want
I
to
let
use
it cool down.
glass.
Glass is
Get
best.
glass containers.
Glass is
They're
best.
easy.
It really is.
Okay. You can put glass containers in the freezer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them are saying they're freezer safe. You want to look at ones that say
Yeah,
they're
right.
freezer safe.
Okay.
But most of them that I've seen do say freezer safe because I use a lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our freezer's full of them.
Yeah, I got a lot in freezer.
896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Caller with the question, what causes low lymphocyte count and percentage should a person be worried?
Now, normally, a low lymphocyte count can either be white blood cell total is very low, and so but then they're all going to be a little bit lower. But an active infection is what tends to make it low. The neutrophils tend to be higher when the lymphocytes are lower.
Yeah.
And so you really got to look at a whole picture rather than just that for us to, but if you have a CBC, bring it by. We'll be happy to look at it for you and see what we think from there.
Yeah, and because she mentioned or whoever it was, mentioned the percentage was low too. So okay, that's, something's going on. We just need to figure out what it is. Yeah.
Okay. I'm having, is infrared lighting the same as red light?
Well, the red light the red light spectrum includes the infrared light.
Right.
And so the beds that like for instance our bed at work, it's an infrared.
Right, it has 4 different wavelengths.
4 different wavelengths.
And you can only see one of them. So on the wavelengths, there's 4 wavelengths, but you only see one strand of red. 3 of them you don't see, which is your infrared lighting.
Right.
So it's in that spectrum.
Right.
So yes.
Right.
All right, I'm having a flare-up of arthritis. What foods should I avoid?
Your nightshades are number 1.
Yep, nightshades and gluten.
Well, and gluten too, right. The thing about gluten, just stay away from the grains because when you look at gluten and gliadin, those are 2 proteins in wheat. You realize there's 700 proteins in wheat? That's only 2 of them.
Wow.
What about the other 698? We don't know. We
Yeah.
really don't. So that's big. But the nightshade, your tomatoes, of course, everybody loves tomatoes, right? Tomatoes, potatoes, your eggplants, your
And peppers.
Those are your nightshade plants, and they really, really can cause a lot of
And
problems.
sugar is very inflammatory.
Especially fructose.
Sugar aggravates everything.
Yeah, so things that are, what you want is things that aren't inflammatory. And dairy can be very inflammatory for many people.
Can
and
be.
Eggs is a high allergen too. And if you have an allergy to it, then that also can increase inflammation.
Yeah, but the fructose has been shown to be the killer as far as producing inflammation.
All right.
Yeah.
So
What is a good way to boost your metabolism?
Exercise, and don't eat as often. I mean,
Cut out the sugar.
don't eat all the time. People eat too much. And so it's not necessarily that it increases your metabolism. It's more about people usually want to increase their metabolism to lose weight. And so, exercise does increase the metabolism. Green tea has been shown to increase metabolism. So there are some things you can take, but you definitely want to, stay away from all the sugar too if you want weight loss.
Caloric restriction does that too.
It does.
Sets up for autophagy, which we've talked about, and all that.
Which is not eating as much food.
Yeah, just not eating as much food.
Right.
Making money is safe too.
Yeah, I learned that a long time ago. I will eat until I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
And if I've got stuff left
Should.
over, well,
Yeah, don't clean your plate.
call the puppies. 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open for you. It's 18 minutes after 9 o'clock. We're going to take another break and come back with our final segment and a look at this week's special. And welcome back. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. It's our final segment of this morning's show. Before we get to the special, another question. SED rates are 29. But I still have stiff muscles. What could be wrong?
Actually, a SED rate at 29 to me is still too high.
Oh yeah.
Most of the people we check, it's like 2. So even though 29 falls within the normal range, it's on the higher end. And to me, there is still an inflammatory response going on.
Yeah.
What we use to lower SED rate that works better than anything for lowering the SED rate is your SPM, or special pro-resolving mediators. Works great for lowering the SED rate. I'd also have to say you want to see what else is going on, because stiff muscles can be other things as well. If you have other lab work, bring it to us. We look at it a little differently. We don't just take things that are barely in range and think it's okay, because it's not. The ranges, one thing people need to know is ranges on lab work are a sample of the population. So the people that are low are in there and the people that are at 100 are in there. And so they get an average. And the average, they used to be, a lower average was out of range. And as more people are getting sick and more people are getting inflammation, that range keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I don't think that's right. You don't want to say it's okay just because everybody else has it too.
Yeah.
You really want to do
Exactly.
something, and doing lab work to find out what other underlying problems are there is a good idea. We do something called the pain panel, which looks at a lot of different things on what can be causing pain, and it does do a SED rate, so it looks at a lot of different things, but that's what I would do.
All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this week's special is.
It's conjugated linoleic acid, or CLA. And this is something that a long time ago we used to get it in food, especially when you ate beef, if they had been pastured and raised on grass and so on. And it's a conjugated, meaning we got more than one linoleic acid bound together, so we got at least 2. And that conjugated part makes it a little difficult for the body to use, and they show that taking a little bit of CLA, actually the only way the body can use it is to take some of our stored fats, put with it, now it can use it as for energy. So it tends to help with weight loss in that respect.
Right.
But it's just, you just want a very small amount of it.
About 3,000 milligrams is what we normally,
Yeah.
which is like 3 a day on our
Yeah.
conjugated linoleic acid. Ours is the Tylenol brand, which
Right.
is a patented brand of
Right.
CLA. But like CLA used to be higher in the American diet. And when CLA was higher, they found that people's weight was lower, but there's probably a lot of other factors as well, actually,
yeah.
in that. But grass-fed beef are the only ones that tend to have CLA. Now that most beef are not grass-fed, the CLA content is almost not there.
Yeah.
So you don't get it in your diet as much anymore. And yeah, like he said, it helps with actually burning some fat. Is it a magic pill? Nothing's a magic pill, but it can help.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
That's an interesting question.
yeah.
What can help trigger finger in hands? That hasn't been mentioned yet.
One of the things we use is bromelain,
anti-inflammatory,
some of the proteolytic enzymes. So any of those can, but that definitely tends to be a ligament problem. So it does tend to, and trigger finger can get bad, yeah. But we usually use the bromelain or some of the proteolytic enzymes.
Yeah, okay. I have been feeling quite depressed lately. Do you have anything that I can take for this?
It depends on what other stuff you may be taking, but if you're not taking a lot of other prescription medications for something like that, the 5-HTP is probably the #1 thing that we use.
Yeah.
I would say without a doubt, it gives us better results quicker than almost anything
Although
else.
SAMe works really quick too.
And you
So
never know which person is going to
Yeah.
do better on either one.
So acetyldenosylmethionine, methionine, and we have some people that take both.
Yeah.
So you can actually take one or both, but the SAMe and the 5-HTP are probably the most things we use. We do have something called Brain Reset that also tends to help. So
It has the lion's mane.
yeah, it has a lion's mane. It actually has a few things in it. Actually, it's a combination product.
Okay. Is there a healthy choice for salad dressings?
There
Olive
is.
oil.
Olive oil and a little vinegar. Yeah.
I mean, that's one.
And you can even put your own, like Italian seasonings in there, but make sure it don't have MSG or anything. But make your own Italian dressing, because then you can actually just mix it up.
So
pretty
ranch is
easy.
out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, most of it's either sugar or fructose.
Most packaged processed stuff is just that. And what do they have to put in it to preserve it for a long period of time?
I think those have,
Now-
of all the shows we've done, I think those have to be the two dirty words.
What's that?
What?
Packaged
processed food.
Well, it is. Matter of
Yes.
fact, I'll tell you about this book I read not too long ago, and what it was about is the guy was a doctor from England, and it's called Ultra Processed People.
Yeah.
Dig that one.
A book.
And what he means is we become ultra processed by eating ultra processed food, and it's everywhere. There's over 10,000 different chemicals that our wonderful FDA allows in the food supply that is not food. Researchers from
And a lot of them don't have names.
well, they don't have that. Well, they got several names, but nothing you'd recognize, right? There's a researcher from Brazil, and she put it about as succinctly as I think you possibly can. It's not food. It's an industrialized commercial chemical made for edible. In other words, it's basically an edible chemical. And it's not food. And it shouldn't be in your food at all. Right.
What does a low AGAT mean?
I'm not sure about
See,
AGAP.
I don't know about AGAT. I bet they're talking about AGAP.
Or maybe anion gap.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But because there isn't something the other, so
Okay.
that's a calculated value.
Yeah.
I mean, they calculate it using 4 different values, and so it really depends on the other values when we say what it could mean. So you really got to look at the full CMP, which is a metabolic panel,
Right.
to kind of get an idea.
And it usually has something to do with one of the biggest factors will be some of your electrolytes.
Yeah,
that change.
and the proteins play a role in it
And the
as well.
proteins do
So that's
play
what I say. You just have to look at the whole thing and then decide what might be causing it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this one was kind of goes back to the 5-HTP. Are there any signs, early signs of anxiety?
Well,
Early signs?
there's no
Yeah.
early
Are there
signs.
any-
You
or
just
specific signs?
you're just anxious.
Oh,
Specific
you're just
signs of
anxious.
anxiety.
Anxious for no reason. I think that we're all maybe
Right.
a little anxious if we have a
Now, if
reason.
something happens, it's normal to be anxious.
Yeah.
It's just when it's for no reason that you start saying what's causing my anxiety. High cortisol is one of the big reasons we see, but not always.
Not always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're about to wrap things up here. What are we talking about next week?
Next week, we're going to talk about endometriosis and fertility. So we see a lot. We're
Brand new subject.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. And that's
Oh, real
something
quick,
that we
if
get a lot
grains
of
are bad
questions.
for arthritis, why is oatmeal recommended?
Because your Quaker Oats are the ones that's
Yeah, who
recommending
recommends
it.
it? That's you got to look at who's telling
Yeah.
you to eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Follow the money,
I think what do they call it? Steel ground or
Steel cut.
cut.
If you're going to
Steel
do
cut.
it, steel cut or better.
but still.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anyway, thank you for being with us on this morning's show. Thank you for all the phone calls and everything. So we will be back again next Monday morning for another live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. You can also find a lot of information on their YouTube channel now. Go in and subscribe to that Facebook page and also doctorsnutrition.com. Have yourself a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Monday morning.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim